What's up, everybody? This is FitSpaz Recovery. I'm your host, Paul, the producer. This is where you come when you want to get fit, stay healthy, and stay sober. What's up with you this week? Rhetorical question, obviously, because you can't talk back to me. What's up with me is I've had another very busy Wednesday. I changed shirts because I was wearing the same ratty old dingy t-shirt that I was wearing last week on this program that I wore in my yard to do yard work. And today I did another round of yard work. Very manly yard work. Super manly. That's right, because I went to rent a chainsaw. Yeah, just soak that up right now because that's so manly. And I got it on video where I chopped this part of a tree up there and it came down on my head, and then I was like, oh, F word. I said something like that. And I'm glad it could have been worse. This was a 20-inch chainsaw. It was a powerful little device. And I was like, man, gotta love this. Humanity makes these wicked tools. Had these two dead trees I wanted to eliminate. One was a tree stump because I had already moved as much as I could by hand. And the other one was like just this dead tree stump all the way up to these dead branches. And it was a lot of debris. I underestimated how much work it was, though. I thought it would take me an hour, and it wound up taking me about 2 hours and 45 minutes, with some technical difficulties here and there. But how handy having the chainsaw, because I took these thicker pieces and chopped them up. My trash can going out tomorrow is so densely heavy that it's ridiculous. Ridiculous! And very manly work. I know I'm going to keep pounding that into your hearts that it was super manly. This week, otherwise, for physical activity has been less than I'm used to because, alas, everyone, I've had to pay attention to my body, and I haven't been working out like I normally work out. And it's been a little bit depressing, but I've been putting it in healthy perspective, still getting up and doing my meditation routine. And the reason being that I've been working out so hard with this weightlifting program that I've developed this extremely stiff back. The muscles in my back feel very stiff and and I've been pushing extra weight on everything because I want to get more bulky. And speaking of bulky and manliness, I was outside videotaping my escapades with the chainsaw today, and I thought, yes, man, you look more shapely than you used to. More like a man. Instead of a skinny man. But anyway, I digress. Being a total dork. So I haven't been working out. My plan is I think I might start up. I think maybe Saturday or Sunday. The last time I worked out was my chest on Friday. So I might start up on Friday. Or I might start out tomorrow with an arm workout because that's easy on my back. One might say, you could have done that already. Why haven't you done that? And you might be right. But I am just taking it very easy. The movements, I stiffen my back when I do a lot of things. With the way I'm leaning over and doing these rows. It might be a combination of all that. So just taking a break, trying to get into good shape. Every day I've also done a full stretch routine. Trying to get my body back in a normal state. And I certainly noticed in bed last night that I'm feeling a little bit relieved, like, okay, it's getting better. But so I'm saying that, and with the manly man work of chainsawing today, I noticed, like, holy crap, this is work too. Like, you're holding this 20-inch chainsaw up in your arms, and it gets tiring when you're just like, and you have to hold it up. It's kind of like an isometric hold. But so a lot of good fitness through that. Another thing I did for a palliative relief sort of thing to make me feel better about myself because I'm not working out is I just decided to start playing music and writing. And so for the last few days, I've spent a substantial amount of time at this thing right here recording some music. And on the first day, it was just wildly off the wall. I kind of liken what I do with music sometimes. When I'm writing, it's like you know, people will take paint and they'll just splash it on the wall and be like splashing more, and they're like, okay, that looks nice. It's modern art now. So I take that approach with music, only a little more organized. So I start with some kind of basis for something, whether it's a bass line, a guitar riff, or a rhythm that I'm doing on my hand drums. One of those things. Whatever it is, I start with a basis, and then I layer something on top of that. And then eventually it becomes something. And so I worked several hours the night before last and last night, just goofing around doing stuff. And I came up with something very interesting last night. And the thing I came up with last night that I continued working on today, very cool, because it's the first such thing I've done since sobering up, and I've got that creative feeling, that creative rush from doing it, and it doesn't come out all at once, but I kind of I look at it and I go, I really have this gift, I have this talent for writing music, and it's my own style, and I'm willing to experiment, but I also have this way of arranging songs, and I hear my own character in it, and God knows, the real test is like exposing it to others and seeing, hey, like, what do you think? But I can just tell. I wrote some very good words for it. I approach vocal recordings in a very overzealous way, meaning I double up the main vocal track. I harmonize over that with two separate vocals. Sometimes they do 3-part harmonies. At the very end part, in the break part of this song, there are a lot of different parts. I think I have 4 different vocals just going like, and then there's 4 more separate vocals singing a mainline lyrical part and a harmony to that lyrical part. And it's like, damn, that's exactly like what I like to do. So Yngwie Malmsteen, who's this amazing virtuoso guitar player, kind of like unlike any other person, he's able to do these amazing things on guitar so unbelievably fast. Someone once told him, slow it down, dude. Sometimes less is better. And he's like, what do you mean? Sometimes more is... No, I think, in fact, quite the opposite. More is better. And I have to, like... I take that approach because when I'm writing music, I'm not just like, here's a simple, boring song that could go on the radio. I don't conceive it like that. I'm like, make it big, make it huge, make it extraordinary. Sort of, one time I read Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. I think it was in Guitar Magazine years and years and years ago. We're talking, I read this like 15 years ago. He said something along the lines, I will paraphrase because I can't remember the quote exactly, just that when you're recording, you have the liberty and you might as well make it as big and grandiose as you can. So I take that approach because, by golly, I want people to hear it and go like, wow. I want beautiful women to hear it and go like, wow, I never like imagined at all that you would be doing this, Paul. And like, so it's like, here it is. This is me. Offer up the best I can possibly produce on there. And that used to be my approach to the radio when I was doing marijuana radio, was like, I'm going to be the best. I looked at the best in their field and I was like, that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm trying to emulate. And I think I succeeded at that. This is quite different, by the way, because I don't have an ensemble of people around me. I'm not inviting guests on here yet. And who knows, maybe it would evolve into that eventually. I'd love to have a sidekick or two, a man and a woman, someone funny and a woman with perspective who can relate to this, because I think that just elevates the art form. It also makes the work easier for each individual, because sometimes I feel like, okay, it's a silent moment now, and I got to keep it going. I got to say something relevant. What am I going to do? Still having dreams about smoking. I don't think that's ever going to go away. And, related to smoking, let me say something. Just yesterday, I still follow a lot of people from the old days who are into marijuana as activists, especially. And so people will post various things online. And I saw a guy from Arizona. I want to say his name was Paul or Chris. I don't know. I don't remember what the hell it was called. But as I'm listening to this, I get stirred up because I'm like, oh my God, all the same arguments I used to make against the status quo of legalization he's making. And so I said, I agree with a lot of what this guy said. And so some guy came out and was attacking me, just like has happened a million times in the past before. Like, you're a stoner against legalization. And I'm like, well, I don't really smoke anymore, dude. But there was this big back and forth. And when people are just disrespectful morons, I get into sarcastic mode. And boy, did I get sarcastic on this guy. Like, just in a really obnoxious, non-modest way. I was talking down to him, kind of saying like, okay, so you can do what you think is legalization. I hate how he will like lump me in with all these other people. Like, you're all the same. I'm like, oh, I'm the same because I happen to have a particular point in an opinion, and it's total leftist politics. So he's labeling me, and I'm like trying to explain, and I'll explain this to you. Okay, it's just simple perspective of politics. It's that there's a broad spectrum of liberty, and we've had so many rights taken away, and some things that are rights are called privileges. And so I'm all about the broad spectrum and people having the broad spectrum to make choices for themselves. And along the lines, this is going to be very political, and it's not going to have much to do with substance abuse right now, okay? But I did happen to mention that marijuana is addictive, and I know people are like, how could you say that? You're a really bad person. But no, I think I'm just giving you my honest perspective. And so I get pulled along with people. They're like, if you don't agree, if you don't just march along with the status quo, you have to receive all these nasty labels. And I think it's silly. So as I was saying, I'm into the broad spectrum of legalization. I don't think it should just be legal for just a very few people to take advantage of that opportunity to buy it, grow it, sell it, all of the above. I think it's very restrictive, very deliberately restrictive, in a way that's purposefully intended to maintain the profit modes plural of prohibition, whether that means people going to jail, people getting caught up in the court system, enriching lawyers who have this big gigantic market where they get to, every time something's illegal, hey, perfect, and it's enforced and people are charged. You have a giant market all of a sudden that opens up, and a lawyer that's like, oh, this is going to be my specialty, and so potentially billions of dollars a year in revenue for people defending others who should in the first place never have the legal problems they have, because they should never get in trouble for something that they should be able to choose to do in the first place. So the legal market shouldn't even be there. So there are all these things that make perfect sense in my mind, okay? And maybe people are like, you're deluded, but I'd like to hear, I accept differing views and rational arguments for things, but what I have trouble is accepting personal attacks. It's like, I don't agree, therefore I'm in this category of people, and it's leftist labeling that bothers me. And from saying that, don't you go and jump to assume that I'm on the right, okay? Because I'm not on the right. I kind of look at the right and left politics of all kinds of issues, many issues. Right now I'm just exclusively talking about marijuana legalization, and I go, wow, that's flippin' idiotic, the way they have a tendency just to label people and assume things. And so all that's true, especially with marijuana. So I have my views about marijuana. And here's the irony. Here's the kicker that makes me mental, that drives me crazy. It's that I'm advocating for more freedom. If freedom were a big fat pie, I'm advocating for you to have the whole pie. And someone's being critical of me because I'm not going along with wanting a little bitty slice of freedom, okay? An itty bitty wee slice of freedom. And we can solve all those other problems later on, as long as stoners and people who want to get high, who are addicted, they get their weed in their hands so that they can hide in the closet, because you're not allowed to smoke it outside, so that you can hide in the closet getting high and be like, wee, I'm free, I'm in the closet, I'm free, I'm so blessed, yay. That's not freedom to me. Freedom is being able to have the choice to do all of it. And I never said anything about underage smoking or underage possession or anything. And this guy's jumping at me like, well, he's telling me I'm in favor of it. And you know what? When it comes to making a comparison, like a 17-year-old having a joint, which they do, they get it and they have a joint. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying that outcome is not as bad as some crazy armed fascist marauder breaking down your door and shooting you dead if you dare to stand up and think you're threatened and you don't know why someone's in your house. So he's saying you should be able to grow 6 plants. And I'm like, you should be able to grow like 1,000 in your backyard. And that's how freaking liberal I am. Okay? When you have millions and millions and millions going to violent enforcement, yes, by golly. Again, don't misconstrue what I'm saying because I know how people take things out of context. That is much worse when you have an armed violent response as a result, putting people into prison, costing a fortune for something they should be able to choose to do as free human beings in a supposedly free country. That's worse than a child who I don't want to have marijuana, but a child happens to get their hands on marijuana, or there's no law pertaining to that. Somehow people in Italy, there's no law forbidding a 12-year-old to go into a bar and get a beer or a shot of liquor. There's no law saying no. It's like the parent goes down to the bar owner and says, hey, bar owner, you know me because I live down the street because we live in this small community here, right? Well, don't you give alcohol to my kid. And I want you to tell me if my kid's coming to get alcohol. And so it winds up being this personal choice, this personal enforcement mechanism, instead of involving the nanny state, telling you what you can and can't do. And I feel that way about drug addiction too. So how I will tie it into this show is that I think it should be your personal choice. No, I don't want you to be addicted. The last thing I want in the world is someone to be addicted and enslaved to a drug. I should say the second to last thing, because the first thing that is the last thing I don't want is the government coming in violently and dictating to you, don't you dare, the hypocritical government, the government that regulates big pharma and the doctors and their little drug deal world being able to say, okay, let's just excessively prescribe Percocet to people, and no, it's a whole different world. You're legal because, hey, I'm giving you your Percocet, even though it's a million times worse. That is worse to me. But am I making any sense to anybody? Can anybody tell that I feel strongly about this stuff? And I don't think that the passionate way that I'm imparting it to you now is going overboard in terms of being overly personal. I just don't get where people are coming from. That guy who was berating me online yesterday and judging me and throwing all these labels at me, there were instances when I said, okay, I agree with you here and there. And that's like the olive branch. Like, hey, it's possible to have debates with people. It's possible to have discussions where people totally disagree, but there's still a mutual respect because you should want to hear the alternating view. If God forbid you miss something I say that takes your thought to a new level, I want to hear your alternating view because even though I might disagree with this, that, and the other thing, you might say something that helps me transcend my own consciousness where I might have freaking intellectual constipation. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm making great points here. These are priceless points. This is why I was the Howard Stern of the marijuana industry. Honestly, swear to God, nobody gets as honest and real, and their passion is all like, yeah, man, what was I saying? Smoke a bowl. Yeah, man, smoke. It's freedom. Let me reiterate as to freedom, the concept, the broad spectrum of freedom is also the freedom not to be addicted to something, not to be a slave to something, but the freedom also still to have that choice. It means so much to me. Gee whiz, I got political today. A limited political, okay? We're not, and like, when I start talking left and right politics, I'm a little nervous because someone will assume something absurd. They'll be like, I identify with the left, and so therefore I have to throw all these labels at you, bigot, sexist, racist. And conversely with the right wing, they have a lot of asinine views too. But I'm not saying I'm not saying that there aren't perspectives on both sides that I can agree with. I'm just saying that the way it's portrayed and calcified in mainstream media makes me sick to my stomach. It makes me repulsed and vomitous. And so, as I was having this argument with this guy, let me tell you, I thought, I'm so glad I'm not doing that anymore, that I'm not inserting myself in that world and expressing my opinion, because I don't want to be attacked by a bunch of people who can't have a debate, who can't hear a different thought without wanting to demonize somebody and throw labels at somebody. I am seeking out the entire world who can have a real conversation and a real debate, and they haven't been caught up in that brainwashed hurricane that is mainstream media. You're either with us or with them, and if you think A, you're therefore B, and I have to be against you. No, I want people who differ, but I also want people who can appreciate a different view. And let me tell you what the transcendent mind is, okay, in one perspective. It's being able to take a very serious, complicated topic and not just be diluted into one simple yes or no to it. Perspective A or perspective B. And that's it. Because to me, the transcendent view, that's what I'm getting at here, is being able to see where both of those are coming from. And it's dogmatic to think that you have to go with one or the other. Otherwise, you're just a waste. You're a waste of space if you don't go along with one or the other. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey. You know what? That view, I want to take my manly chainsaw to that view and just be like, "Wah! Oh yeah, just decapitated your BUTT. What do you think of that? More chainsaw to your dogmatic view, chopping you down. Down with you." See both sides of a perspective. Imagine that you could be wrong. I could be wrong about something. That is a transcendent view. Knowing that I have to be malleable, I have to be flexible, I have to be able to change. And that goes with everything in life, in relationships, with drug addiction, with learning, with experimenting, with being a friend, with being flexible, like I said, okay? Compromising with yourself every step of the way in your mind, letting go of things sometimes, letting go of stubborn views. And I think I'm taking a chainsaw to the inflexible view. Be more open-minded, for God's sake, about what this and that person is saying. Also, don't fall into something out of peer pressure that you know is wrong. Sometimes it's time to judge. Sometimes you have enough information you can be like, that view is wrong. And sometimes I'm also going to say that people can be so asinine that it's worthwhile judging them. I don't think I've said anything here today that warrants my being castigated and just insulted. You know what I mean? But I know there are those people out there. They have those buzzwords. They're triggered. Their little microaggression, whatever this and that, is like, you've triggered me. I'm offended. And you know what I want to do? I want to take a chainsaw to your stinking little microaggression. He smiled at me. Therefore, he's racist. Oh, no. He didn't smile at me. Therefore, he's racist. So what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to walk by you and then cover my face and not give you an expression? And then God knows there's somebody else who's going to say, that's a microaggression, that's racist. Give me a break, people. Be a little more open-minded in this world, okay? Be honest with yourself. Be more open-minded for the sake of unity and the transcendent mind. You're climbing up that ladder. You want to evolve. You want to be greater. You want to do better. Learn more. Transcend. Achieve a higher state of mind. God, half of this is coming from my meditation every day, I swear to God. Okay, so I've said enough. And this should inspire some people just to be like, you know what? I need to be more open-minded, but I also need to know when and where the information's enough to properly judge. And God knows there are those D-bags out there. I'm not going to want to be their friend because they can't handle a different view. Like, if you say there's a such thing as a microaggression, I want to plug my ears and run away. Take the chainsaw to you. Off with your head. Okay, I'm a little too shocking today. I'm high strung. I really got off on the topic today. My mind is popping, okay? I'm wide awake. I feel pretty good. Back is on the mend. Things are good. I'm going to wrap this up. I am Paul, the producer, and this is FitSpaz Recovery. If you want to give me feedback, be nice. Don't be hating. Send it to paul@fitspaz.com. I also want to shout out to Kevin MacLeod, the amazing composer, who is the man who made all these fine backdrops for this show. I want to shout out to myself for the chainsaw metaphors and the silliness. Hopefully it brought a smile to your face or you giggled. I love that chainsaw. I'm going to rent me a chainsaw just for the fun of it. Just to feel manly. Just to get my testosterone boosted to the moon. Yeah, that's what a chainsaw is. It's nature's way of boosting your testosterone without eating anything or doing any exercise. You're just like, whoa, warrior man, primitive man, using a modern tool. We're so amazing. Human beings can make such amazing tools. Off with your head. I know that's too much. All right, everybody. Chainsaw. Have a nice day. Check out FitSpaz.com if you want to see more episodes. I'm not nearly as whack. This is like the most political I've ever been on a given episode. I want to talk, want to build a team. Let's get involved in fitness. Paul@fitspaz.com. By the way, Kevin MacLeod, check out incompetech.com. This is FitSpaz Recovery. Once again, I'm Paul, the producer. High strung right now. I'm not on any drugs. I just used a chainsaw. And everybody, take care. I will talk to you next week.